and go through all that rigmarole just so
No, it's okay. I take it kind of gets my hackles up when people say, "Oh, atheists are just too afraid to do this or they're too afraid to do that," because I'm always your Huckleberry. You know what I mean? So
that was gay.
You know,
were you born in '74?
Yeah, I was.
Interesting.
You're old as fuck.
Okay, well, I'm kind of getting the concept. Maybe this isn't where I need to be because
you're
I'm here to advocate.
You're too old for the platform. Get off.
Toast.
Okay.
Listen,
See ya.
No. Where you going? Hey. Listen, Toast. I'm gonna mute Toast real quick.
Aw, bitch.
How the fuck do you mute him?
No. Listen. I'll take care of Toast. Don't worry, Mind Fever. No, listen. Toast is just a young militant incel. Do you know what an incel is?
Yeah, I do. They're I think the dictionary definition is people suffering from rectal cephalic inversion.
No.
Yeah, I think it's a terminal case of rectal cephalic inversion.
No, it just means involuntary celibate.
Involuntary celibate. There you go.
Right. So he's got a lot of pent-up anger and hostility towards, especially women, but also men. Right. He's just going to be generally just hostile to other people. Okay. Don't worry about him.
Okay. Well, I muted him, so I don't give a shit what he says.
Yeah. No, I server muted him, so it's a global mute. Okay. Now let's talk about
which one's Charles?
Yeah. This is his first time on Discord, so like terms and stuff about what's going on in Discord, he may not understand.
Listen. We're all Charles. Okay. What is this atheist Facebook group that you're from?
All Charles?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's what was it? Was it the real debate that we were on? I don't remember.
And do you like to engage in debates about atheism?
Well, I really think that this is just me personally, but I really think that religious belief and non-skeptical acceptance of concepts is a detriment to the progression of humanity. And I say that because when we teach people that it's and listen to what I'm saying.
That makes you an anti-theist then, right?
No, not necessarily, because I don't think that people shouldn't be allowed to believe the things that they're believing, and I don't think that people should be forced to not believe. But I think that rational assessment of situations and problems is vastly superior to like an irrational position. And when I say rational and irrational, I mean logic versus illogic, right? So not like sane and crazy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to explain what atheism is. I'm not here to explain what atheism is at all. I mean, we can talk about that, but I was just giving my position as to why I interact with theists in debate formats and things like that. I think probably. So anyway, what I was saying was that I think that the inherent illogical position of religious belief teaches people that it's okay to make decisions based on irrational points, right? So things like intuition or authority, divine, or revelatory kinds of things. When you accept that as a good reason for you to base your religion, which for so many people is so integral to their identities, then they use that for other things like, should we put people in internment camps? You know what I mean? So that's what I say when I say that it's a detriment to society as a whole. Not that Christians are evil or anything like that. I think it just teaches a mindset that is not healthy to our species. So did that answer your question?
Yeah. Do you believe that God does not exist?
I don't. So my position is not that God does not exist or that no gods exist. My position is that there is no good reason to accept the claim that gods exist or a God exists.
Exactly.
But I don't know for sure that no gods exist, because a hidden God would offer just as much evidence as a non-existent God. No, I'm not agnostic. Agnosticism is a statement of knowledge. Atheism is a statement of belief. Okay, so if you were to make a claim, X is true, and I have evidence against X, then I can say no. I know for a fact that X is not true. So, person A killed person B, but I was with person A when you say he killed person B. So I know for a fact. So I have knowledge of that. I'm Gnostic of that position. If you say person A killed person B, and I say, well, why do you claim that? And you say, well, the guy just seems stupid to me, and he seems like the kind of person that would commit a murder.
Do you have a lack of...
Hold on. I'm getting to the end of my sentence here, so hang on for a second. So now the position is, I don't accept your claim that A killed B, but I don't know for sure that he didn't. So I'm open to evidence that shows me that A killed B.
Okay.
But I'm not going to incarcerate A based on that claim.
Do you accept the claim that God does not exist?
No.
Oh, so you're a theist?
No, I'm an atheist.
No.
What?
Yeah, I'm an atheist. I don't accept the claim that God does not exist because it hasn't been supported, right?
Listen.
You guys do understand the rejection.
Hold on. I don't believe that God exists.
Hold on a second.
I don't believe that God.
Please stop railroading. Please stop railroading. Please stop.
Okay, so let's.
Yeah, that was pretty effective.
Okay, listen.
Okay, so you're a Christian, so you're Muslim as well.
Listen. All right. Let me walk you through.
Who am I? Am I speaking with Charles yet? Which one's Charles?
We're all Charles. Okay.
Okay. Well, no, because
my favor. I'm gonna ask you to unmute Tomer, please, man, because this guy is one of the.
Charles is Kathleen Tanner, but I'll move her down.
Hey, Krill.
Wait, does he have me muted?
Yeah.
What?
So
I'll ask.
Yeah, he muted you.
My favorite. Tomer was trying to say something. Did you mute him?
I did, because he was.
Oh, did I get moved?
I was do that here, dude. We're men, okay? So you need to
I was trying to answer the question, and he was being
resolve this problem like a man.
Did you unmute Tom?
Yeah, we need you to unmute Tom. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay. All right, I'll unmute him.
Listen,
you.
mind.
Sometimes.
Listen, mind.
Sorry
You're
about that.
unmuted now, Tom.
Okay. Listen, stop over talking me then. Just jeez. You have a habit of you have what I call the juggernaut syndrome. Okay. This means that when this person starts talking, there is no force which can stop them. All right? And I understand sometimes you want to finish your thought. Sometimes you don't want to accept these interruptions. But you can't have a juggernaut mindset in these conversations. Okay? Okay? Now look, I was simply pointing something out to you, right? You reject the claim that God exists. Therefore, you're in... What?
Well, yes. I'm sorry. Yes.
See, here, there you go.
I reject the claim that God
just put your hands in your lap for just a moment and just listen.
I'm not going to be sitting here talk to you like a child. I came here to discuss something with somebody in particular.
We're just evolving.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. You just told me to sit on my hands like I'm a fucking child.
No, I said put your hands in your lap. Just a moment. Let me finish what I was saying. Listen.
Okay.
So you reject that God exists. You reject that proposition. Therefore, you're an atheist. Now, we can just go the other direction. You also reject the proposition that God does not exist. Correct?
I reject that as a statement of knowledge, yes.
You reject it as a statement of... Do you have that belief then?
I don't believe that a God exists.
Oh. So, let's talk about you let's see. You
Or rather, I'm sorry. Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah, Charles, are you there?
Shalom!
I just wanted to clarify.
Hey, Charles.
I'm not convinced that the claim that God exists is true.
Are you convinced
What would
that
convince you of that claim?
Oh God.
Yeah,
You're not convinced the other direction either, right?
I believe that no God exists, or rather, I should say, I don't believe that any God exists. But I'm not making a claim that no God
Look,
exists.
I'm just asking you. You don't believe the other direction either, right?
Sure.
Okay, so you're a theist.
No, I'm not. And that's such a.
Oh, you're a pussy then. You're a pussy who don't want to take any
Tasteless.
steps.
Uncalled for.
Are we right or
Tasteless.
wrong?
No, mind. Don't leave. Mind.
No, you know what? I've been
Tasteless.
insulted a ton of times here.
I understand what you're
So
saying,
that
'cause I
was-
hold the same.
My favor, I
Mind
apologize, dude. I apologize.
Mind
It is
favor, how
just
about
a
this?
reflex. That's it. Okay.
Tasteless as a
And by
Mexican.
that logic, I'm going to say all Christians are Muslims because you have the same God.
All right, Golden. Let me ask you something, Mind Fever. Can you just briefly for me outline your worldview for me?
My worldview in terms of what?
Your overarching worldview.
And if anybody interrupts, Kathleen and Mindfever will be muted. So just between these two for right now.
What specifically? Because worldview encompasses so much, and so when you say worldview, what I'm thinking of,
would you like me to define it?
is, yeah. Would you define it for me, please?
Yeah, your fundamental cognitive orientation encompassing the whole of your knowledge.
Okay.
So, for instance,
okay.
my
worldview. I think I see where you're going with that. I would say probably philosophical naturalism.
Okay.
Would be the most.
I would
be the most cookie cutter.
Yeah, sure,
place to put
sure.
that.
I would take that as the definition.
So
that's really good.
yeah, that would be as close as it gets, and of course I deviate in some areas. I'm sure because I'm not a robot, but yeah, that would be the closest.
Okay. So from a naturalist perspective, how do you arrive at the absolutes necessary in order to have epistemological knowledge?
Are you saying where do the logical absolutes come from?
Well, I'm asking because some people will claim that logic is absolute. Some people will claim that logic is simply a brute force fact of nature. Some people will say, I don't know, logic is absolute, right? So you have to have some kind of functional ontology in order to make epistemological knowledge claims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I hold that the logical absolutes are absolute in all places, in all times, in all situations, and in all possible universes. That is a total presupposition on my part, but it's a presupposition based on the logical absolutes that have to be accepted before they can be overturned.
Okay.
So it becomes a self-defeating idea.
Right. So what about other non-material things that can be absolute?
I don't know of any non-material things that can be absolute.
Well, so for instance, basic mathematical principles like primes.
Okay, basic mathematical principles are descriptions, so they're a language. So to say that mathematics is absolute,
is a prime not even lacking a description? Would a prime still not be a prime?
A prime is used to describe a concept that we observe in nature. So what we observe would be objective. I don't know that I would say absolute, because if the universe goes away, then whatever it is that we're describing goes away. But this is where it gets kind of
logic.
Well, not necessarily, because even if the universe is gone, logic still has to maintain itself. Like there still has to be logic. Logic is applicable in all times, situations, and in all possible universes.
Sure, but would you also not agree
Math is a language, though. See, and that's where
you're looking at the symbols rather than the concept.
Right? No. I understand. But the thing is like,
for a little while, okay.
So if there are three of a thing, okay, let's just say 3 planets, okay. Even if there were no minds to conceive of the notion of 3, there would still be those 3 planets, correct?
Right, but
okay.
If we were to take away the mind and the planet, would the notion of 3 transcendentally still not exist?
It wouldn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't exist because if there's no mind to conceive it and there's nothing to demonstrate it, then it doesn't have any meaning. And if it doesn't have any meaning, it can't exist.
Okay, so that's kind of
not that it can't exist, but it can't.
So you just kind of said something. You just kind of said something though that takes me into the next point, right?
Sure.
Now there has to be a mind to conceive it, right? So we have two basic.
No, that's not correct. That's not what I said.
Well, that's what you just said. You just said that mind has to be present in order to conceive of 3-ness.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry then.
What I said was, you asked me. You said if we took away the planets, so we took away the objective thing that we're observing, and we took away the mind that conceives it, does 3 still exist? And my answer would be no, because there's no way to give it definition. So even if you had a mind, if the object or if the thing isn't there in order to observe, right? And there isn't a mind to conceive of the thing, then it is indistinguishable from non-existence.
Wait. Why do you need both of those?
So hold on now, though.
Because the mind, the mind that conceives doesn't create the thing that is observed.
That's right.
But wait a
second. You need to say that the thing doesn't exist. Period. Why?
Because that was what he asked me. That was his question. He said, if we take away the planets and we take away the mind, then 3 still exists, right? No.
So, but here's my question, though. Right? You are asserting logic doesn't behave by those rules, but if we took away all of reality, if it just no longer
if you
exists,
take away all of reality, then nothing exists.
Exactly.
All right, if we take away
anything.
But wait a second. If we take away all of reality, all right, if we take away all of reality,
sure.
Then can logic still exist?
That's a good question. I've never been in a situation where there was no reality, so I don't know that I could make a statement about what kind of conditions would exist in non-reality. I would say that non-reality would be a state of no conditions, so nothing could exist.
Okay, but that is to assert that logic is constitutive to reality. But a minute ago, you would say that logic is not constitutive to reality.
Okay, so in order for reality to exist, there must be logic, because if you violate any of the logical absolutes, you cannot have reality.
Wait, they're absolute?
The laws of logic are absolute.
The principles of logic are absolute?
The law of identity, the law of non-contradiction, and the law of
fuck!
Those God. 3, those are completely.
We have to catch them up on superstates and quantum mechanics?
It doesn't matter, because superstates and quantum mechanics still conform to logic. Period.
That's false. That's false.
But it's not. It's not.
That's false.
No quantum physicist. No serious.
What is a superstate? Okay, so let's just hold on. Hang on.
It doesn't matter what the it doesn't matter what the superstate is.
2 fucking things, right? So we have A or B, right? A or B.
That doesn't matter.
Law of identity, right? But
that doesn't matter.
One that's in a superstate. Tell me how it doesn't matter. Law of identity.
It doesn't matter, because the superstate is not both. It is either or, and it's based on our observance of it. Our non-observance of it doesn't make it either or it doesn't make it both. It is either or, and then we observe it.
Yeah, that sounds like nonsense to me.
Well, I don't care if it sounds like nonsense because that's what it is. You're talking about the fact that like quantum states can be like in terms of just binary language, right? Like 1 and 0. They are 1 or they are 0, and it's till we observe it that it becomes either 1 or 0. And until then, statistically, it's viewed as the same thing, right? It's both open and closed.
Wait, I'm not committed to that idea, right?
Okay.
Like, I think Schrodinger's cat has some issues, right? I think there's these ideas of superstates that have real problems, right? So I'm asking you what your position is on this.
I'm not a quantum physicist.
Right. You think that the law of identity is absolute. That's your
law. I do believe that the law of identity is absolute.
In virtual, what is absolute? Give us the reasons for that.
The reason that the law A must equal A and A cannot equal not A.
Okay, that's reasserting the claim, right?
Yeah, no, but I'm asking you if you really want me to break down why A must equal A. Because if A didn't equal A, if A could equal not A, then things could exist and not exist at the same time.
That's right, and that's
okay. Which would be a completely null state, because if things exist and not exist at the same time, they cancel each other out.
Mind fever. Okay, so you and I are not against each other here, right? We're trying to understand each other, and I've just posited an example of a superstate where that would be the case, that would violate the laws of identity. In virtue of what does it not violate the laws of identity?
By virtue of the fact that a thing cannot exist and exist at the same time.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, right? So here's the best way of explaining it that I've heard thus far.
Or a thing cannot be a thing and not that thing at the same time.
Well, but here's the thing, right? So you can have a logic gate that has two switches, that has two states, right? On and off, right? But through quantum mechanics and quantum physics, we understand that a logic gate with only two settings, on or off, can be not on and not off, but a third state, which is both on and off. Right? So how does that not violate the law of identity?
I don't know. I think that there's probably a misunderstanding there. That and like I said, I presuppose the laws of logic. If it can be demonstrated that the laws of logic are not absolute, then that's definitely something that we can talk about. But I don't know that that's been demonstrated yet, and I don't know of any physicist who's come out and said logic doesn't exist at the quantum level.
No. Wait, hang on. But we're talking about classical forms of logic. There's all sorts of different logic. There's fuzzy logic, there's paraconsistent logic, there's all kinds of logic, right? You're merely talking about classical forms of logic. When you talk about something not violating the laws of logic, as you call them, right? I would call them the principles of logic, but I would call them the principles of classic logic. Paraconsistent logic and fuzzy logic do not follow the same rules. So I don't understand like why the contention with identity, when even given classical logic, we can show, demonstrate.
Well, I mean, you don't even really need to get to the quantum level for that. I mean, you can just take a look at light, right? Light's a particle and a wave, right?
Right. So why are you contending that?
Because light can exist as a particle and a wave. That is its identity.
Right, but
so when we're looking at a quantum particle,
I think what you're saying is that they can be described as a particle or a wave.
That's right.
Yeah, it can be described as a particle or a wave.
There's a difference, though.
They can be both, actually.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, and that's a description of its identity, and like I said, I'm not a quantum physicist. So I don't know about quantum mechanics.
Actually, a wave is a bunch of particles with mass.
But my bigger question, well, I don't know that it's contradictory, but my bigger question is What does this have to do with the God question?
Well, sure. I mean, it has all kinds of implications.
That's really the only. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. In that it doesn't get us any closer to God.
Well,
right?
I think you have a fundamental misunderstanding of something. Also, you said something about A can't equal not A, because if it did, they would cancel each other out. But
right.
If A equaled not A, you want to say that they'd cancel each other out. So what would A equal then?
Non-existence.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't equal not A, right? I mean, because that's the law of excluded middle, right? A must equal A.
If they cancel each other out, what does A equal then?
It would be nothing. It would be null.
Okay.
I mean,
so A would
you
be
can't.
Not A.
No, it wouldn't even equal not A, because there wouldn't be anything.
Why would it not equal not A? Why would it equal not A? If they're canceled, then presumably that option is not available to us.
I think he's talking about absolute nothing.
Well, hang on. Just let him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That if A must always equal A.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that these sort of identities exist on a gradient between A and not A? That there's some sort of in-between state?
No.
That they can have?
No,
okay,
see, that's the point. That's the point, is it cannot happen. Right?
Well,
so when you say the argument for that would be that it just cannot happen. You cannot have something. Listen. No, it's not. That's not. The argument is a thing is itself. A thing is a rock is a rock. A rock always equals a rock.
Reasserting the claim. What's the premises that lead to the conclusion? What's the argument? You know what an argument it is, right? You know what an argument is? Premises that lead to a conclusion? What's the argument?
These are tautologies.
No.
Yeah, these are tautologies. No, but I don't have an argument because it's a tautology. It's a basic, fundamental fact. That's it.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, that's just all there is to it. If you can demonstrate to me a thing that equals the opposite of itself, then we can say the law of identity.
Mind favor. I got a tautology for you, right?
Sure.
God exists, therefore God exists. Right? If God is true, God is true.
Okay. Demonstrate it.
I don't need to. It's a tautology, bruh. But
it's not a tautology, bruh.
Sure it is.
No, it's not, because there is no condition that is currently demonstrated to be dependent or contingent upon God. But everything is contingent upon identity. Everything is contingent upon identity.
No, what the fuck does that have to do with anything?
I think what he's trying to say is that
tasteless, dude. I gotta mute you if you jump in here because you're about to drop like a turd in a punch bowl here. What were you saying? Mind fever?
That it's not a tautology because it cannot be demonstrated that that God is necessary, or that anything is necessarily contingent on God. It has not yet been demonstrated.
What do you take to be a tautology?
A tautology is a basic fundamental fact that must be accepted in order for there to be existence.
Wow. That's an excellent.
God is necessary.
God is the absolute necessary precondition for everything.
Demonstrate it.
The impossibility of the inverse.
Because the impossibility of the inverse has to be demonstrated. That and nobody has ever demonstrated the impossibility of the inverse. Not William Lane Craig.
Nobody's demonstrated the possibility of the inverse.
No, but that's what I'm saying is you're getting into these William Lane Craig and these Matt Slick and arguments.
So look, you're getting into these Matt Dillahunty,
Sam
Harris arguments.
But the point that I'm making is that these arguments are just asserted. right? The arguments by William Lane Craig are just asserted. We have to accept God because of the impossibility of the inverse, or the impossibility of I don't know how he says it. The impossibility of the contrary. Thank you. I always want to say conjugate, and that I know that's not right. But the impossibility of the contrary has never been demonstrated. But you cannot have anything exist if it does not have identity, if it does not equal itself. And that's the point. That's why this is a tautology, but the claim God exists and everything depends on it is not.
What? How could a thing be a thing without God?
You have to demonstrate that a thing can exist without, or that a thing cannot exist without God.
Wait a minute. You're the one making the positive claim.
I'm making the positive claim in the laws of logic.
Right. But look, so you've just look. So hang on, mind fever. Before you get frustrated, listen.
No, it's too late, man. It's too late.
Right. You're the one that's making the positive claim.
Listen.
What is my positive claim? What is my positive claim?
Stop. Listen. I agree with you. These things are frustrating, right? So when we talk about the laws of logic,
what is my positive claim?
Just stop. Listen to me.
Hold on. Right? No, before we even get into that, tell me what my positive claim is.
Your claim was that things don't need God to exist, right?
Well, that's not what he said.
Exactly.
That was not my claim. I have never said that. I never said that.
No, he didn't.
Stop. Listen. Mind fever. You're talking about when we were talking about what the laws of logic are, right? And you said that you don't have a full accounting for them. You can talk about their like ontology, in virtue of do you have these epistemic access to these things, et cetera, right? But it could be the case that these things are prescriptive and exist in some way or obtain in some shape or form that's unknown to you, right? It could be the case.
Is it possible? Is that a possibility? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Sure, it's possible. How do you demonstrate that?
Okay, I don't think that you can.
Then you cannot make the claim, or you cannot say that this claim should be accepted. Unless you can demonstrate. So here's the thing,
and this is where I'm going with this.
I want to go back to the nothing can exist without God.
Stop.
That people were saying.
You're taking us on a left turn.
No, I'm not. Okay, because that's what was said.
Either we pursue the same conversation, or you just flip the table and quit.
Are those my options?
What do you want to do?
You made the claim that nothing can exist without God.
What do you want to do?
Well, I thought we were still talking about the same thing because that objection came up.
Okay,
right?
What?
So here, hold on. You just continue. Go ahead.
Look. Let's just restart because clearly I don't want everybody here to just like. So we can fork the conversation. We can go down.
Let's just continue what you're saying. Let's continue going with what you're going with.
Okay, so let's just ask you this question. What is and let's go back to this, and I know you've already answered it, but given the questions I've been asked you subsequently, what is your idea about what the laws of logic are?
The laws of logic, as we understand them, are observations of how things work in the universe. They're descriptions of how things work in the universe. And those things work in all times, in all places, and in all situations. And that is, I am perfectly willing to admit, is a presupposition. But the only way that you can logically overcome them is to accept the logical absolutes. And that makes it a self-developing proposition.
You're saying that they're absolute. Right? Yeah. And also at the same time presupposing. So you're just saying these things work in all times and all places. Hang on.
I presuppose that
I'll let you talk. I let you talk. And then I provided the
the reason why
I provided I provided a defeater. I provided you with an example.
The reason why I'm interrupting you is because I'm trying to correct what you said. If I don't correct what you said,
right, you've got to stop. Okay, the idea is that I've provided you with an example that violates the laws of logic, and you haven't adequately addressed that. So right now we're come full circle right back to where we started. So what's your answer to that?
You've got to stop. Okay? You made an incorrect statement. Okay? I needed to clarify it. You have to give me the ability to clarify. I presuppose that the logical absolutes are absolute. Okay? They may not be, but I have not. There's no demonstration of anything, even your example, that violates those absolutes. Okay? Because your example is not. Your example, for one thing, is, and I have to admit it right here, I'm not a quantum physicist. I know very little about quantum physics. Okay? But no quantum physicist has ever come out and said that the laws of classical logic are violated by quantum logic. Okay? And we know that physics is absolute. Newtonian physics is absolute in the universe at large. Okay? And that quantum physics takes place at the subatomic level. Okay, but quantum physics does not negate Newtonian physics. So quantum logic does not negate classical logic. It's the same thing, because it asserts itself at a higher than subatomic level. Okay? But the question that I have, because this is all smokescreen, what does this have to do with God?
So we're now taking a left turn in this conversation. We're no longer having the same conversation. I asked you about the laws of identity. I gave you an example, and now you're asking me what this has to do about God, but you've still not addressed the same.
Here's why. Here's why I haven't. Here's why I haven't. Here's why I haven't.
You gotta stop, dude. I let you talk.
Go ahead.
Now,
say your piece. Go ahead.
And now you've got to be quiet and listen to me for a little bit. I know it pains your ass, but you got to listen to me for a little bit. So until you address the idea that quantum states, superstates specifically, violate the classical laws of identity, we can't move from here. So you can ask stop.
Yeah, we can.
Calm it.
Okay.
Calm down. Calm down.
He's the juggernaut.
So until you address that, we can't move on from here.
Okay, I'm not addressing it. Okay, because I'm not a quantum physicist, and I don't fully understand how the laws of quantum logic work.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm not addressing it. But the reason I came here was I was invited here by someone else who said that theism is a stupid position because there's no, or the person is a theist because there's nothing to support atheism. Okay, and then when we talked about that, or when we hold on, princess, don't interrupt. Somebody's talking here. Okay. When we said, "Hey, that's not right. You're strawmanning the issue."
Clear.
Okay. What do you mean I'm not being very clear? The point is that I came here to talk about whether or not atheism is a correct response to the God claim. Okay, and you guys want to talk about quantum physics and excluded middle and all that. Here's the thing. I am perfectly willing to admit my ignorance on a lot of different issues. Okay, I only have a bachelor's degree education, and it was in physical science. Okay, so there's a lot of shit that I don't know, and I get that, and I'm sure that's a lot of shit that you guys know that I'm not even going to know what the terms are. Okay, but it still boils.
Question that for you.
Okay, well, it still boils down to why should I believe in God? That's the only question that I'm concerned
with. It'll make you a better person.
The real question is, why do you start from a worldview that is a not God worldview?
I didn't.
No, I'm saying I'm talking about right now. I'm not talking about in the past. You've decided that you are going to examine the evidence under your worldview, right?
Yeah.
From your perspective, with your rules, your guidelines, to see if the evidence is sufficient to satisfy your criteria for what is true. Isn't that correct?
When you say your criteria, it seems like what you're saying is by my personal definition, things are. And I don't do that.
What?
So my criteria for examining evidence is basically the same as the criteria for the scientific method. What I'm looking at is
that's fine. We understand
is it evidential? And because I don't want you to think that I'm using just some subjective, like, well, I didn't see it, so it obviously didn't happen. I mean, that's not where I'm at. I'm the criteria that I want for evidence is the same criteria that we would demand for any claim ever.
So if you're going to be using the scientific method as your approach to reality,
sure,
there's some assumptions that you'll need to make about reality, correct?
Assumptions like what?
The uniformity of nature, the assumption that your cognitive faculties are reliable.
Sure.
You need to make the assumption
for
causality.
You don't need to make the assumption that your cognitive faculties are reliable, because and the reason why I say that,
there's not even a need for you to defend.
I'm sorry, did I talk? Did somebody tell me not to interrupt?
Oh my God, this guy. Okay, just let Mind Fever talk. Jesus.
Would you just let me say what I'm going to say, and I'll give you a chance? Jesus.
Jesus.
Now the reason why I say is it's not dependent on my cognitive ability, or that my cognitive functions are accurate, is because I'm also going to present it to other people's cognitive functions. Now, I do have to assume that other people have functional cognition. Okay, so I do have to assume that, but it's not necessarily dependent on myself.
How would you interpret what other people's are experiencing? Would you be using your cognitive faculties to interpret that?
Well, sure. Yeah.
He's saying he needs to presuppose like other people's sense perception, but that's still an assumption of
I need to presuppose.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Like you're no, but you're still assuming sense perception that way.
Yeah,
Well, I'm not assuming sense perception. What I'm doing is I'm assuming sense perception. I'm just doing it through like a different assumption.
Correct.
Like, that's ridiculous.
You're correct.
So how does atheism account?
It's a really dumb technicality, dude.
How does
wasn't even worth wasting
atheism account for the reliability of your cognitive faculties, for causality?
It doesn't.
For the principles of logic.
It doesn't. It doesn't account for any of that.
But hold on a second. What is knowledge? Or how would you define knowledge?
Dream.
Knowledge is information that we can. I've heard a lot of different definitions of knowledge, and I'm not sure that I agree with all of them. There's people who say it's reasonably justified belief, and I don't know that that's true, because there are beliefs that we can hold that we think are reasonably justified.
Reasonably, I think that would be a terrible.
He doesn't know if that's true.
Well, I don't think that it's. I don't necessarily think that that's a good description, because we can be justified in believing something that isn't true. Based on the evidence that's available. So I don't think justified true belief is a good description. For me, I would say things that we can demonstrate logically and empirically to be factual would be knowledge. That's
really?
I mean, that's
you mean wait, you just defined it as justified true belief then.
No,
if it's factual, it's true, right? If it's factual, it's true, right? You just reworded justified true belief.
Okay. Not only that, but he said the problem with justified true belief is the fact that we can believe untrue things. Well, untrue things aren't true, so that.
I'm sorry. You were quiet. You said untrue things are what?
True things are true and untrue things are untrue. The idea is that the problem with justified true belief is that we can believe things that are untrue is just asinine, because those things wouldn't be knowledge.
Well, hold on.
So why is
can I give you
definition of knowledge?
Because your definition of knowledge appeals to an absolute which is unattainable.
Shush.
You guys get
let's go ahead and accept.
I want to know how come I have to ask the rest of the peanut gallery can talk.
I don't think that based on what the objections that you guys have said, because I didn't. The last guy who was talking about, you just said that it was justified true belief.
You did, right?
Yeah.
You don't think the justified true belief is a good definition of knowledge because you don't know that it's true. And then you define knowledge essentially as justified true belief. You just used words like fact and evidence.
Sure.
JJ, not only that, but he said
do you
the
mind
problem with
letting me
justified
finish
true
my
belief is the
sentence?
fact that sometimes...
Do you mind letting me finish my sentence?
Right.
Do you mind letting me finish what I was going to say?
Mind fever. Are facts
Yeah?
true?
Well,
Are facts true, sir?
I believe the facts are true. But can I finish what I was going to say?
Go ahead, Mind Fever. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is, based on what that guy just said about justified true belief, and I think he's the one that just interrupted me when I was just going to concede that, yes, you're probably correct.
Oh, good.
That, yes, justified true belief is probably the closest definition I have to knowledge.
So would you consider...
I don't know if there's a better one out there.
Would you consider your beliefs in your cognitive faculties, your belief in causality, and your belief in the principles of logic to be knowledge under that definition? If they were lacking in justification?
I would say, I'm sorry, could you repeat the things? Because I got cognitive ability,
I know
logical absolutes, and then what were the other things?
So causality, your cognitive faculties, and the principles of logic, right? These are the axioms that you assume in your worldview, but in order for them to be considered knowledge, they would require justification. But it doesn't seem like there's an ultimacy of reality that we're using for justification of these three things. So that's why my concern is whether or not the basis for your reality can be considered knowledge.
What is the basis of reality? Is that what you're talking about? Or is what... I don't think that it is knowledge. I don't think that it is knowledge. Because, like I said, I presuppose the logical absolutes because they seem to work at all times. You know, you're just saying that it's coherent for you. That
you can't have a reason to presuppose something.
Yeah,
they're just presuppositions. So the concern is,
okay. Well, then let me reiterate that, because my senses have always represented my reality as true insofar as I can demonstrate that it's true. So to put that in easier terms, my senses have always shown me that the stove was hot because whenever I've touched the stove, it's been hot.
Yeah, that's chronology, right? That's not causality, right?
No. But what I'm saying is that you're asking me how I justify reality, or how I justify the basis of reality. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you, what is your ultimacy of reality?
Can you define ultimacy for me?
That which there can be no greater, that cannot be wrong.
My senses.
But
and I
we've already demonstrated that
your senses can be wrong?
Just the Munchausen
no,
trial, dude.
my senses are more reliable than they are unreliable.
Your senses be wrong?
Yes, sure.
Okay,
so this is the problem. If your senses can be wrong, then you can't have knowledge in your worldview.
No, that's incorrect.
No,
it's incorrect.
If we define
it is incorrect. Exactly.
Knowledge is defined in a way in which you could not be wrong about it.
No, it's not. That's not what knowledge is at all. Hold on. Stop.
Mind Fever. You define knowledge as justified true belief. If that is not, then it can't be wrong.
No, it's justified.
No, excuse me.
That's justified true. So listen, hold on.
If it's true,
you're forgetting about the true part, Mind Fever.
Justified belief. Okay, then let's just say justified belief.
Justified belief.
He hasn't given his definition.
Jesus Christ.
There's a lot of over-talking going on. Can we have two beliefs that are justified but contradictory?
I don't think so. I don't think that's possible.
I
think that people can believe things, can hold contradictory beliefs in their minds at separate times.
Can they have justifications for those beliefs?
It depends on what they're using for the justification. But
hey, can your wife love you and hate you? Come on, man.
Why do you think love and hate are exclusionary?
I don't think that they can.
Justified belief is nowhere near sufficient to satisfy the criterion of knowledge.
As I said, the knowledge definition you're using renders knowledge impossible.
All right, so Here's what we'll do.
Crap.
Look, if you see a tiger in the woods, are you justified in thinking it's going to attack you?
I think that's a good justification. I think that's a reasonable assessment of the situation.
Okay.
Whether or not it's true, is completely irrelevant.
Okay, hold on. So you said you have justification for a belief, but whether or not it's true is completely irrelevant to whether or not it's justified.
In your situation that you just offered, if you encounter a tiger in the woods, well, you know what? If you're gonna play this flip-flop game, you gave me a situation.
The flip-flop game?
Yeah.
You're redefining words.
No, he's not.
Words don't have an inherent definition. Words are descriptions for thoughts.
Excuse me, sir. Please calm down.
No, fuck you. You calm down.
Whoa, buddy.
That's a microaggression.
You know, I've been getting interrupted and then being yelled at for being interrupted. I've been treated like
sir.
I've been treated. No, don't fuck
Yeah,
you.
this
Don't
guy is
discourage
correct
me.
here.
Please,
So
Mind Fever is correct, and this is the only guy who knows what's up.
Immediately.
So here's the thing. Knowledge is facts, information, skills acquired by a person through experience, education, the theoretical or practical understanding of a subject. It is the awareness or familiarity gained by experience of a fact or information. True, justified belief. I mean, what do you want?
I think everybody has access to the Google definition. We're talking about a philosophical context.
Yeah, I think
we're having an argument that could be reduced modally. You're not going to use a colloquial definition from Google and reduce that down in a modal argument. That's just ridiculous.
I'm not having a modal argument. I'm not. If that's what we're into, that's not what I'm doing. I don't give a shit about.
Well, he asked you about an ultimacy. Like he was asking you, like, what is your justified belief that cannot break down?
Justification for reality.
Look,
my justification for reality. Hold on.
Mind Fever, bud. Listen.
Just because I don't have anything, so let's go ahead and concede that point. I have no justification for reality.
No, hold on. Let's listen to Mind Fever. Go ahead, Mind Fever.
I have no justification for reality. Okay,
You're self-emulating.
I have zero.
Thank you.
Hold on. Shut up.
The atheist position has been reduced down to self-emulation.
Okay.
Look, Mind Fever.
You fucking princesses.
Listen.
You have no justification for your worldview. This is
shut up!
worldview.
Let him talk!
Calm down.
Bud,
Sir, please.
Listen.
Sir.
When you're in the barber chair getting your hair cut, you know, he might be really impressed with this Matt Dillahunty Atheist 101 stuff, but you're playing with the big boys, buddy, okay? It's not going to fly here.
Look, Mind Fever.
Hey, Tomer.
I am so close to leveling up right now, and you look like just enough XP to do the job. So let's keep going.
let me put it this way. You guys can you guys can rip apart my worldview all you want. Okay, I am perfectly willing to say I don't have a justification for it. That's
you
fine.
Can't know anything.
No, it's not that I can't know anything because I experience things and I can build knowledge based on experience, right? Because knowledge is not.
Look, dude. The ultimacy of your reality lacks justification. You could be wrong about anything. Do you understand how you emulate?
Sure, but here's the thing. By demonstrating that, you don't show that your position is correct. And that's what we're talking about here.
Is that true?
Atheism, yeah, because
by you making
not,
that statement, by you making the statement that you can't know anything, it is like a dog returning to his own vomit.
For one thing,
it is a self-defeating statement.
That's the point that you're trying to convince him of.
You're making
you're defeating your own argument.
You can't know anything. Do you understand how ridiculous that sounds?
Maybe it'll taste better the second time, bud.
He can't even defend his position.
Just for
no.
Well, the thing is that in my position being indefensible is not a support of your position.
It's a tu quoque. What he's done here now is said, Krellman, Mr. Krellman.
Here's the thing. It's not a two-cookie fallacy. It's not because I'm not making a fucking claim.
Neither can you.
You fucking retard.
Sir, please. You've made the claim that you can critique and analyze my worldview for evidence supporting the hypothesis that there is a God.
Even though I have no definition or justification for reality, it doesn't change the fact that when you touch a fucking stove, it's hot. It doesn't change shit. It doesn't change anything. How do you justify your position?
This is all gobbledygook. You're being completely unreasonable.
How it sounded earlier with the
Yeah, my favor. Yeah, show them, dude. You're correct. Let them know, dude.
Mind Fever, you have no ultimacy of reality. Every statement that you
I do have an ultimacy of reality. I have cognition, and the cognition is able to.
You could be wrong about that.
But so could you.
See, it's a true
Hold on, stop for a second.
So do you.
Hold on for a second. I just got accused.
Excuse me, sir.
No, fuck off! I just got asked. I just got accused of making a 2K profile. Yeah, I'm gonna fucking overtalk you because you fucking retards don't know how to ask a question and then wait for a fucking answer.
Because you won't answer questions.
I've tried to explain my position 5 different times, and you guys keep interrupting me. No, fuck you.
Sir.
Fuck you.
Hey, how about this K2? We can play 2K2.
That's what you guys are doing. That's what you guys are doing. I just got accused.
And when you get exposed for the liar that you are, you say, so do you. That is not how you put together an effective worldview. Nobody's going to be convinced
I don't
by
know
that.
you guys shit. Fuck off.
Nobody's going to be convinced by that.
Run away, huh?
Take care, buddy. Oh my god, that was great.
Oh my goodness, that was amazing.
That was fucking great.
Guys, sit back and let me do my work, okay?
Well,
sorry, dude.
I had to mute Ludic. I had to mute Tasteless.
So many interrupters.
Spoil everything.
Christ.
I couldn't help but
Fucking people laughing on open mic.
JJ fucking it up. Jesus,
Yeah.
you're all horrible. You guys are just horrible.
Yeah, I didn't mute fast enough.
Did anybody get that on recording, Fiction Fighter, Bacon?
Yeah, Lance. Chum did.
Oh, fuck.
Hell yeah.
So good.
Thank fuck for that, man. I couldn't get the bot working.
Did you level up, Krill?
I say you did.
Krill, did you see my prediction?
No.
He could powder keg?
Oh, yeah.
And more importantly, I got here late. Whoever has the recording, upload that shit to YouTube like yesterday.
Yeah, I got it too.
Thank you. Upload it to YouTube. I love you all.
That was fucking beautiful.
Shut the fuck up!
Shut up!
This will blow up.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
God damn it!
It was a good one.
Declan would have ruined it.